And after the great jubilee that they had in the South, when the people were freed, our people was dancing in the street. They were so happy. We are free at last. We are free at last. Thank God we are free at last. And then when they stopped dancing and singing, they realized, how we gonna make a living? How we gonna eat? So you know what they did? They went back and knocked on the doors of the slave master and said, Master, could you give me a job? Just like we doing today. We still knocking on the door, asking for a job from them. And you got people come from other countries and they don't knock on the slave master's door. They go find a little spot somewhere. Excuse me, brother, ma'am, can we rent that space down there? We want to put a nail salon. Those are the Mexicans down there. They came to me and they said, we want to put a nail salon. And nail salon. See, they don't even know how to talk English that well. But they have sense enough to know that if they can get a spot and open up a business, they can make money. Some reason we go knocking on the slave master's door. Yes, I have my resume right here. I have my. They don't do that. They don't do that. Just like the Afghanis down there. Brother Imam, we would like to get the stage place and make it into a pizza shop and make it into a whatever. And that man got about 15 stores now. That same brother down there, the Afghani brother. And he lives somewhere, we don't even know where he lives. I call him, he got one of them numbers that I know he's somewhere. But we go knocking on the slave master's door. We want a job. Still to the day. And that happened way back then. We were dancing in the street and we found out that you couldn't go back home because you didn't even know where home was at. And they wasn't about to tell you, and they had taught you for 300 years lies, outright pure lies. And they know they did it because they made you worship them. And that's smart. Hell, if I had a bunch of black people around and they were in number, they was greater than me, if I could get them to worship me so they wouldn't kill me, I would do it too. Put up a cross looking like me. I'm on the cross. Farouk is on the cross. That's your God right there. And he came down and he went into that flesh right there. That's him. He took on flesh. Because you saw 12 years of slave. It was the slave master was teaching them. I don't know if y'all saw that picture, but he would make them come together. And he was up there, cruel, vicious guy. But on Sundays, he was a holy man. And he taught them the concept of God, how to see God. And he just happened to make them see God like them, like him. Something that was made by Michelangelo. They say Michelangelo made a self-portrait of himself. And then they took that and made that the Christ manifested in the flesh. And they gave that to us. But some of us learn how to read. We learn how to read. Frederick Douglass and all of them, they tried to force him, he said, you need to read that book. They tried to force him to go into a seminary because most blacks, that was where it was made legal for them to learn how to read and write. The first school was a seminary where you were taught the Bible, from the Bible, how to read and write. Frederick Douglass said, no, I'm not going. And Frederick Douglass started learning on his own and through other benevolent whites. They started teaching him, his slave master, the woman, and the slave master. They were more liberal. And they allowed him to use their libraries, and they taught him how to read, and then he took it from there. When he was younger, what he did, he used to get the little white kids because he knew they had an exaggerated idea of themselves. They was into white supremacy. They felt they were better than everybody. So he used that against them to learn how to read it first. He would go get a letter from a book, A, and he would write it in the dirt and tell the little white kid, I bet you don't know what that is. And they said, oh, we know what that is. Well, what is it? And they said A, and he never forgot that A. And then he started putting B and C down. And they said, we know that's B, that's C. And he remembered the whole alphabets they gave him because it was against the law. Some of us don't even know that. It was against the law for 300 years for you to be taught how to read or to learn how to read. Isn't that vicious? There's nobody else in history that somebody took them somewhere and killed the first people, because they killed most of the first slaves that came over here. And they took the children and transferred them to other plantations. And they taught them, they raised them up and gave them an idea of themselves. They did that. So after 300 years, you had no idea of your real name, your real culture, your real God, where you came from, which there was no pictures of God. You didn't have no color of God. God is the creator of colors. All colors come from the sun. And if God created the sun, how could he have a color? And he's the creator of colors. So we didn't have no image, because there's no image that you can get from the creation that would give you an idea what God looked like. You don't get a bird. You don't get a tree. That's what people did. They had gods that was trees, gods that was snakes, gods that was birds. But the real God, there's no image, there's no picture that you could find a similitude of God on the earth. And God created everything that's on the earth. So the slaves, what they did was they gave them an image of God. And they told them, this is your God. And we kept looking backwards and forward, because we looking at the slave master and looking at this image he gave us. The first group knew the trick. They knew the game. They played along with it to survive. Most of our people played along with that, because if you told them people you wasn't going to accept that, I'm not accepting that. Oh, all the other slaves, oh my God, he's not accepting that? You know what happened to that brother, Kuti Kente? The brother that refused. And Uncle Tom told him, that brother, he said, get up off that ground. You know, boy, if them people find you down there prostrating like that, what would happen to you? Because in the building, in the movie Roots, he went down and made prayer. They cut it out the next one? Well, we got the copy. You know, you could buy it. You could buy the whole copy. And the copy we have, he's still making prostration. Yeah, but they don't have to show, because if you bought it, you have it. What the Roots look like originally, how it looked. He was making prayer. And that brother, I don't know, Chicken George or whatever his name was, then he told him, he said, what you doing? You get up from there. Don't you know what these people will do if they find you doing that? Because he knew what it was. Chicken George knew what he was doing. He knew that type of prayer, but he knew that these people will kill you too if they catch you like that. Because what they wanted to do was to erase all of that from your mind and remake you all over again into what they name a Negro. A Negro. You are a Negro. You're not Kuti Kente anymore. You're a Negro. And that's what they did. Eventually, they just took all that stuff out of us. But then you think God is so limited? You think Allah is so limited that Allah can't bring all of that back again whenever he want to bring it back? And that's what he did. That's why I'm so thankful that as dirty as my life was, I'm trying to still figure out, why did God pick me as one of the instruments? And that's what that represents with the first generation in this country that brought the truth back to all of us, our people. And when I say Hispanics and black, poor whites, all of them, to bring the truth back. Why did God choose me and choose a bunch of other brothers and sisters to be the first one? Because they know the type of people. Allah know us, and he know the type of people we are. Once we get on something, you can't scare us away from it. He couldn't have no cowards, no weak people that's going to run at the first little pressure that comes. He had to get some people that was proven over time that they can take pressure. I remember when I wore a kufi one day back in the 60s. 1964. And I was going in the subway, and this white lady looked at me and said, who would give him a job? Like, where is he going? Is he going to work? With a kufi on his head? And I went on the subway, all them white people was on the subway, and most of us, we'll take it off. We'll take that kufi off, or that jalabia. But see, Allah know us. He knew the type of people we were, and he knew the type of people he needed to get this mission accomplished, bringing the truth back to the people that was unfairly and unjustly taken away from them. Now he's using other people from the media, from the industry, from the movie industry. They making all kind of pictures now that's blowing people's mind. Oh man, all of that happened? How did we make it through that? How did we maintain our sanity going through all that type of stuff? And now today we know God again. We know the true God. We know the true identity of God. We have it. And all of them admit it. You can go to Barnes and Noble today and get a good book on the Creator, on God. Same knowledge we had when we came in on them boats. Because we had it then when we came on the boats. And the common language we had amongst ourselves was Arabic. Now we spoke different African dialects and languages, but the common language we had, because most of them were Muslims, because they came from Western Africa. They came from Western Africa. So most of them had the Quran, and they could speak the language that was in the Quran, Arabic. So what the slaves did was they started communicating with each other, different tribes that they came from, in the language of Arabic. And they could talk to each other. They could communicate with one another. So eventually all that information came back. God gave it back to us again. And it's not just no Muslim thing or Islamic thing. It's Allah, it's God's thing. And the religion of God is the truth. That's why Jesus said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Because the religion of God is the truth. Not all these other things we made up that divide us from each other, different denominations and all kind of stuff. No, God created the truth. Like I told you, that Catholic magazine I was reading, when I was in the father's office, the Catholic priest, and I read one of his magazines. We used to share our offices on Rikers Island. We shared the office together. And I read the magazine, and it said in the magazine, in the beginning, God created the truth. And then Satan, the devil, he looked at that and he said, this is a good idea. Let's organize this and call it religion. That came from Shaitan, from the devil. But in the beginning, God created the truth. And Satan looked at it and said, this is a good idea. Let's organize this and call it religion. And then he was able to get his thing off. Dissension, people thinking that God is one color, God is black, God is white, God is green, God is whatever. All that then was from the beginning was destroyed. Because the people had the truth. When they lost the truth, then they started straying, going astray, like we say in Surah Fatiha. Say they went astray. These different religions went astray. And then God had to bring prophet after prophet to get them back on the straight and right path. He had to keep bringing prophets and people that he raised up to bring the truth to the people, to put them back on the path. And the way you know the truth, nothing can deal with the truth. When the truth comes, God says falsehood vanish. And falsehood by its nature is an ever vanishing thing. When the light comes up, when the morning, the dawn, and the light, Raheem, don't leave me, brother. Please, I need you. You inspire me when you're around. So the sun starts to coming up. When the sun keep rising and it reaches noon, it's so bright. It's so bright that you could see clearly everything around you. That's how the truth is. Whether you It's 15 minutes. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to end it. He says 15 minutes. whether you accept it or reject it. God gave you that freedom. God gave you the freedom, even if the truth is standing right in front of you. You have the choice to reject it. And that's what God says in the Quran, that the unbelievers are persistent in rejecting of the truth. No matter how much you show them, bring down all of that proof right in front of them. If you bought God, if you could do it, they still would reject it. Because there's some people they just reject. They don't care if it's truth or not. And you know the truth because you can't dispute it. You can't argue with the truth and win. That's when you know it's the truth. So we know what we have is the truth because we have tested it with other people who claim to have the truth. And I don't know none of them that was able to show that what they had was the clear, plain truth against the truth of this deen. I've spoken to the best.